Jessfor30, and I'm lucky to have Brandon Kosinski with me today. He's the son of Dr. Timothy Kosinski, a close classmate, friend of my wife and I from St. Agatha. And we're just happy to have Brandon here with us. We're going to have some fun. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, Ron. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Happy to be here.
That's good. That's good. Brandon, where were you born?
I was born in Southfield.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in Redford for 2 years, and then we moved to Novi.
You were born in Providence Hospital.
Yes, I was.
All three of our kids, too. Tell me about your parents, your mom and dad, and your sibling. Well, you have a daughter or sister, Jessica.
I have a older sister, Jessica, who's 4 years older than me, and then I also have a older brother, TJ, who is 6 years older than me. My sister and I are business partners. We have a company called Brandon's Vintage Basement, and then we also own the Detroit Vipers, which I'm here to kind of talk about, and I have some goods and materials here to show off. My brother lives in Brooklyn, New York. He comes back a few times a year. We're very close. We're in a fantasy football league, so I'm very excited that fall's coming up in football season. Go Lions. My dad's a dentist. He works out of Bingham Farms. He's an implant dentist. He's a specialist for that. And my mom is a homemaker. She's been around and taken care of me my whole life. That's my immediate family. I also have a daughter named Brooklyn. She's going to be 4 in September.
Cool.
And she's just the light of my life, light of my world. And I love her so much. I love being a dad, and it's changed my life.
Well, there's nothing like that. We've got 3 kids, 5.5 grandkids, and I keep count. Your dad and I, we will not talk for a week or two, and all of a sudden, over the weekend, he pops up with pictures of Jessica and him out in Beverly Hills Hotel, and he's doing a seminar out there, and we just have a little back and forth. He sends me pictures, I send him pictures, and we weren't friends in school. We went 12 years to St. Agatha together, and while I was doing sports and doing that thing and hanging out with my buddies, he was studying and getting ready to become maybe the best dentist in Michigan, maybe one of the top in the country. And we've become friends, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, no, he's always been a studious guy. He's very serious. He's always, made sure we took school and our education very serious. I have a master's degree from Wayne State, and my other 2 siblings also have master's degrees. So education was always at the forefront. Education is important, and I believe the same for my daughter.
Well, that was question number 3. Well, your education, and tell me about Catholic Central for you.
Oh, I went to CC. I graduated in 2011. I loved going to CC. I loved being part of, the Shamrock Nation. I played tennis there. I was a varsity athlete my freshman year, all the way to my senior year. And then I was captain of the state championship tennis team in 2010. That was a really big deal. We got, state championship rings. We got the banner raised in the gym. It was just awesome. I was so close to those guys. And there's nothing like being on a team and leading a team in competition. Even to this day, I'm in a co-ed softball league, and I just love being a leader and just being there for everyone, high-fiving, cheering everyone on. It's just something I've always had. I always love being a team guy. Maybe you're not the best. Maybe, you're not the star or the stud, but you need leadership and you need good locker room guys. And I feel like I've always been that. And I feel like it's translated into my professional life as well.
That's awesome. Well, you and your sister, Jessica, you founded Brandon's Vintage Basement 5 years ago in 2019. And how's that going?
That's going well, yeah. So we started in 2019. I've been collecting vintage probably since 2010, 2011. It's always been a passion of mine. I always loved just wearing vintage hats or, vintage starter jackets, vintage T-shirts, bad boys, or even going to the 97, 98 Cup for the Red Wings. It was always just something in my fashion wardrobe going from high school through college to here I am today. I kind of was, with the popularity of vintage, I kind of talked to my sister and we were like, well, what if we tried to make this a business? We love collecting. We have a good eye for stuff. Vintage is hot right now. can we make this into a business? And we ended up making it to a business. It was extremely successful. We started super slow, traveling the Midwest, doing events and shows and farmers markets and, little vintage and sneaker events. And we slowly built it up to where now we have a permanent spot at Eastern Market on Sunday markets. And that's kind of we call it our store, our home base. It's just where everyone knows where we are. And it's just easy and accessible because it's right down in the heart of Detroit.
Well, I'm looking forward to visiting you. We spend a lot of time, and I thought about later when we talk about making pickles and things. We love that area.
Yeah.
My wife and I drove down Grand River from Brighton, and it's like over an hour ride, hour and 15-minute ride. But we like to do that. We pass where we grew up, a block from our home at Grand River and Beach. And then as we're going down Grand River, then we pass by down in Detroit where she grew up. And then we just drive all the way down. It's casual, and you get excited the closer you get downtown.
Yeah.
With the big buildings and everything. So we went to the train station, train depot, Ford's new place down there. And just went to Eastern Market and ended up at Mamma Mia's and Grand River and Beach. And
Oh, that's one of the best. Shout out to Mamma Mia's.
Yeah.
It's a classic. We love that place.
Do
yeah.
ya?
Yeah, one of my best friends in high school lived right there. And we'd always get pizza on like Friday and Saturday nights. So, yeah, shout out Mamma Mia's.
Mamma Mia's is one of our sponsors here. Where is it now you're located at Eastern Market, but there was a time you were in Shinola for a little while.
Yeah. So with our company, we were selling vintage clothing, and then we pivoted to just doing Detroit vintage clothes, primarily sports. So that comes vintage hats, like I said, jackets, crew necks, T-shirts, anything in between, all Detroit focused. Once we started doing that, we kind of stood out and got a little bit more recognition and got a little bit noticeable for becoming a one-stop shop for your vintage Detroit, goods. Athletes hit us up, rappers have hit us up. We've sold and done a lot of private deals with them. But with Shinola, they reached out to us. They had an open pop-up location in Midtown, and they gave us an opportunity to pop up and create a whole vintage Detroit experience. I'm a type of guy who collects a lot of vintage like trash cans or vintage lockers. I don't know if you remember those from the 90s, those plastic Red Wing or Lion lockers, or those tin trash cans, or those old starting lineup toys, just random stuff, or even game used like Detroit Piston shoes. Like I have a Bill Lambier signed game used shoe. So I've always collect memorabilia and all that kind of stuff. So it was easy to make the one-stop Detroit, vintage pop-up. It was a great experience. We were there for a month. Really good foot traffic. Really got our name out there. We did really well, and it was a great experience working with a big company. It was definitely eye-opening. You definitely learn a lot, being a small business and working with a little bit of a bigger business. But all in all, a great experience.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out right now. That is, everybody gets a lot of attention. Everybody loves that Shinola watch.
Yeah.
It's great. And are you working with those people still?
We have contacts. Nothing concrete, but we just did a big event for the draft. It was a big 3-day event we did with Greenwich Time Pub. That was a great opportunity. They kind of gave us our own little room that we could pop up and kind of create a vintage Lions experience. We had Billy Sim posters and Herman Moore posters all over the wall, Barry Sanders stuff. That was a great event too. We were right by entrance 3. It was basically like a VIP draft experience. I tell people this all the time. To get to where I parked, you had to get through 3 security different people. We didn't have any passes or credentials. We were just like, hey, we're working at Greenwich Time Pub. We have a pop-up. Kept getting through security. Ended up parking in one of the structures right across the street from our location. 100% free for 3 days. Close up. Didn't have to worry about any stress or moving anything. Got to enjoy the draft at our leisure. So it was a great time, great experience. And then obviously with the pop-up, some great sales. So you can't beat that.
Well, there's a lot of people out here. I know you get this Brighton, Heartland, Howe, where we've been for 30 years. And We even experience it in Cleveland when we live down there. There's a lot of people that will be in the suburbs, whether they're afraid to go to Detroit or they have this mysterious whatever it is, but that keeps them away, but they don't know what they're missing. Downtown Detroit is a blast. We always have a good time, whether it's a Lion game or a Tiger game or, the casino, eating down there, Eastern Market, you name it, Belle Isle. My dad worked at the Dawson Great Lakes Museum as a volunteer for years. Have you been to that one?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, the museum. It's right on Belle Isle, and it's called the Dawson Great Lakes. They have all types of things from Ford liners, the ships, to stuff from the Edmund Fitzgerald. And my dad, Bob Jess, he worked right near Eastern Market down there as well for 17 years. You know where he worked? Stroh Brewery.
No way.
Yeah.
Stroh's great.
Stroh's.
Yeah, we love that beer.
Well, I don't know. I didn't even know it was still being made.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think I've had it recently. I think you could get it at some of the dive bars.
Can you?
Downtown, yeah.
Nice.
I remember taking Stroh's to Chicago one time, like a case, when me and my brother went there for a vacation. And the people we were staying with was like, what is this? They couldn't believe it. And they knew the ice cream, but they didn't know the beer. So another little funny little side story. But Detroit's great. I lived down there for 5 years in Midtown. I lived right by the hospital, the Harper Hutzel. And actually my daughter was born there. And we lived there for about a year until we moved and bought the house in Novi. So I loved it there. I was comfortable raising my daughter there. I would still live there if I could have gotten a house down there, but something worked out over here. So I'm down there all the time. I'm every Sunday at least. And then go to a ton of Tigers games. I'm a big Tigers fan, a big sports fan. Going out to dinner down there, everything. I mean, Detroit's great. Yeah, there's still not, great areas and some unproduced areas still to come, but we'll get there. I mean, it takes time. Just enjoy what we have.
Yeah. There's a lot of Mike Duggan's done a good job. I don't believe in his political leaning, but we don't really get political on here. Everybody has their own choice.
Of course.
And people ought to be a little more respectful and a little more understanding of the other side, and that would make everybody a lot happier. And it's stressful. It's 90 days before this election, and you can just see the nastiness on Facebook. It's crazy how mean some of it is. It's like, come on.
Yeah, no, I don't get involved with politics. I don't.
Good. We won't.
I don't have an answer for you. I say.
I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just saying
I
what
sell
I believe.
Vintage, Detroit sports gear and
Yeah.
and retro Detroit sports T-shirts. That's the lane I stay in, and that's
good.
what I do.
Well, it's funny. We were talking about my dad earlier and his experience raising 8 kids, and you like the fall. You talked before the show. We love the fall, and we'd go out and listen to Lions or Michigan football games, and he'd put the 8 kids in the station wagon, and they'd pop the back down, and we'd get 8 gallons of cider from Franklin Cider Mill, 8 dozen donuts, and we'd run around like mad, try not to get stung by the bees, and that was just a great memory. But my dad was a Navy guy hit by a kamikaze in World War II on the USS Bory. And he was picking up body parts but he never drank, he never smoked, and he never swore.
Wow. Really?
Navy.
Whole life.
Navy. And he was proud of it. And we were proud of him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, my Uncle George was a CB in the Navy. Part of the construction unit that would build up and put up stuff. So
who was that?
My Uncle George, my dad's brother.
Oh yeah, he's a carpenter, right?
Carpenter, yes.
See, my memory's not shot, Tori. Yeah. We have a special pickle recipe, 20 years old. Schumacher's a Dan Dental Lab. I worked at a dental lab for 7 years. Your dad tell you?
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't think you told me that either.
No, probably not. But the recipes, Jerry's and Ann's dad, and it was 12 in Orchard Lake. And we always really try to buy those cukes down at Eastern Market, or Brighton. Brighton does their market every Saturday, and Howell does one at Sunday. And those things are good for the soul, man. I drag the grandkids down there all the time when everyone's around. We just go and walk around the market, and we know a lot of people here, so makes it fun, Brandon.
Yeah, no, the market's a beautiful place. Any market. I mean, farmers markets, Eastern Market.
So you were captain of that tennis team. What year was that?
2010 is when we won it. Yeah, fall of 2010.
And do you see any of those guys?
Not really. I keep in touch with some of them, like on Facebook. And then one of them actually went to Albion College, and we played tennis with each other there for a year. But no, other than that, everyone kind of, moved on and kind of did their own thing. We haven't had like a reunion or anything like that. Yeah. I think there's a text group. Other than that, yeah, no. I haven't been back to CC since I've graduated. I haven't gone back.
It's interesting because the changes they've made. I've been there this summer 5 or 6 times with my grandson for lacrosse, and he's on this Cherries team. Get this. So he's on this Cherry team that goes out to the East Coast. He's going to have 6 tournaments next year. It sounds like he just made the team last night. They were over, my daughter and Austin, and 6 tournaments on the East Coast. I mean, my daughter, I'm saying, well, that's going to cost a few bucks. You're going to fly him out there. You and your husband will fly once in a while, or there are other Brighton kids. But in the other kids, they have soccer players, and they pay $5,000 to $6,000 a year to play soccer. And I just in my heart, that wasn't the way we grew up. That wasn't how I coached. I coached Connie Mack baseball, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, the Dick Scott Dodgers. I didn't want any money. They got all specialized now, They're all going to be pros, and it's just kind of on my mind a little today.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. They say that with like travel baseball and soccer, like you mentioned, and lacrosse. Yeah, all those tournaments. You never have a weekend off as a parent. And they also say it's not good for the sports. It's all pay to play. I don't think it gives access to everyone. Everyone doesn't get an equal opportunity if it's just all about money. It's kind of like why certain people can't play hockey, growing up and stuff like that. When sports are so expensive.
It's kind of like Disneyland from what we grew up as kids, riding our bikes and getting pickup games and driving, or ride your bike, pick up a buddy. They'd hop on the handlebars and you'd have a bat and a ball and you'd just go play. It was.
Well, everyone, like you said, everyone's a superstar now. And playing house is not sufficient,
it's not cool.
For kids' egos. Yeah, it's not cool, right? You don't get all the gear and all the.
It's like college. Everybody had to go to college. I felt so much pressure when I got out of high school. I didn't want to go to college. I went to OCC and then Wayne Community into their dental program so I could get that dental technician job. But it was a huge amount of you felt less than a human being because you weren't smart enough, or you weren't, you just didn't like it. If you didn't like it, it's too bad. You had to go. You have to go to college, and I think we're getting away from that a little bit with the trades. Not quick enough.
Yeah,
that's what I believe.
Yeah, no, you're starting to see that more on like TikTok and Instagram about people getting into the trade life, electricians or plumbers and stuff like that, and how much you actually can make and what you can do and run your own business.
And not owe $150,000 in 4 years too. The story from the beginning of vintage to making own designs and owning the Detroit Vipers, acquisition of the Detroit Vipers. We want to talk about what you're going to sell, Brandon, the quality of the clothing, process, events, experiences you've done.
Yeah, no, I guess we'll go from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I kind of mentioned how we kind of pivoted to, vintage Detroit sports, to selling that. And that was a big hit because everyone knew where to come for the best vintage Detroit sports gear. And then we had an epiphany, and we were like, well, why don't we make some of our own retro inspired designs off of some of this vintage gear, and let's hire some of the artists who were making it back in the day. So that's what we ended up doing. We made a very cool Lions mascot tee, and we hired an original artist from Salem Sportswear. I don't know if you remember that company from back in the day, but they did all those caricature tees, those big head tees. They did Isaiah and Larry Bird, and
I'm sure I've seen them.
I'm sure you've seen them. Mm-hmm. So we've hired, some original artists to do designs. So we pivoted to doing that, and that was very successful for us. Making our own designs, people seem to gravitate to it, and obviously it's not vintage, so it's easier to sell, and it's easier because it's not just one piece, like a vintage piece. You have one, and then when it's gone, you have to replace it or hope to find it again or something like that if someone's looking for it. So we decided to do our own designs with T-shirts. And then while we did that, a little bit after, we had the opportunity to acquire the trademark to the Detroit Vipers. And that's something we're about to launch and push very hard right now. We're building a website currently. We have a bunch of merchandise already made, ready to go. And yeah, we're kind of hitting it off with that for this fall and this holiday season. We have a hat right here that we just did. That we're showing off right here. And we sell hats, T-shirts, kind of accoutrement of stuff. A lot of the things we do, like that's a vintage hat. We like to keep things as official and as, the best quality that we can. And with our own shirts, our retro, I wish I would have brought a shirt. I could have hung it up or shown it, but with our designs that we make, we use top quality blanks that are made in the USA, and then our tags are cut and sewn, put into the shirts in Detroit, and then our shirts are screen printed in Detroit. So it's a lot of made in America, made in USA, doing it the right way, top-notch quality.
So this gift I have for you, this is pretty special. It's signed by a person who, this never will happen again. It never happened before he did it. He lives off of Flint Road here in Brighton. We tried to get him on the show 3 times, and you don't get them all, I mean, it was kind of a strange situation, but I went over and talked to him for a half hour, 45 minutes in his condo here off Flint Road in Brighton. And the infamous Denny McClain, 31-6 in 1968.
Oh my gosh!
He wrote everything written there. He
inscribed it all.
He did it all. So that is your
no way, really
gift.
Awesome.
Yep.
Oh yeah, my dad talks about the '68 Tigers all the time. That was his team.
He did a lot of crazy things. I think when Mickey Mantle was hitting his 535th home run, you might have heard that story. He called a Bill Freehand out, I believe, and said, I want to throw one right down the middle, lob it in so Mickey can hit this 535 home run. And Mickey Mantle didn't believe him. He's going, Denny McClain, he's a hard ass. He goes, he's not going to lay one in for me. Well, he lays one in, lobs it right over the middle, and Mickey Mantle didn't even swing. Yeah. So he went back out. Denny's calling Freehand out. He calls him back out. He goes, what's he doing? Tell him. He says, tell him to put his bat out where he wants it. So Mickey Mantle puts his bat right there where he wants it. And he lobs one in and right up into the seats. And it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I've definitely heard that story. My dad was telling me how he used to wait after games back in '68 and get autographs from the guys, and then listening to the games on the radio, and how the World Series was on in the afternoon.
At school, we'd watch it. The nuns would take us up at St. Agatha in the library, and we got to watch the games.
Yeah, and then he was telling me when he was in, getting his master's, how he would go be a bleacher creature at Tiger Stadium back when those seats were nothing and beer was so cheap. So seems to be a lot of memories. Obviously, Detroit is a baseball town, and I love hearing it, especially from people like you and my dad. It's good to hear the memories and to pass them along.
Yeah, it's awesome. We've got for Jessfor30, we have 3 sponsors. Mamma Mia's Pizzeria, we talked about. You loved it. That was enough. That's good. They're done. Dr. Timothy Kosinski, you know him? See this? I don't care. The last two, Tori, right? My wife's like, don't you dare go on there and not have that flipper in. Well, we lost the first flipper in 2 days. I had to go have him make another one, Brandon. And but your dad, he's just, I don't have to tell you. Clark Lake Golf Course. I'm heavily involved in a what's going to be Darren McCarty, Peter Dante, and Louis Lee. Do you know Louis Lee?
You were telling me about him, I think, on the phone during our conversation.
He follows Kid Rock and the fact he's been in Nashville, I think, for 5 years or so. So he's got that down. His country is down, Pat. So he's got a Johnny Cash one. Look at it. You can hear whatever you want to hear. His Johnny Cash song's pretty good, and he's really entertaining. He's all over the stage, and so he's going to be out at the Clark Lake. It's Friday the 13th of September. And I'm really involved with Mike McHugh, the owner. He went to St. Agatha with us. The guy's crazy. At 65 years old, he decides, I'm going to buy a golf course with a restaurant. But he's a great guy. He really is. He's a great guy. So we're looking forward to that on Friday, September 13th.
Yeah, I think I was telling you that I've met the Peter Dante gentleman and Darren McCarty, obviously local legend.
Where'd you meet Peter Dante?
He was at an event called Astronomicon at Burton Manor. It's in Livonia. It's kind of like a horror pop culture convention, but they get comedians and like wrestlers to do autographs and kind of, BC grade actors, character actors who were in horror movies and stuff like that. And he was there one year, and he was being hilarious.
Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, he was like the life of it.
Did
and
you
same with
see?
Darren. I mean, there's so many stories about him that we won't tell on the podcast. But I feel like anyone who runs into him or meets him, there's always a good time attached to it.
Yeah, I got to golf with him out here at Lakeland, just the two of us, and it was fun a couple of weeks ago. We get to golf with Lance Parrish in a few weeks too at McCarty's golf outing. So
now, when you hang out with these guys or you interview them, and you become buds, do you ever get anything autographed by them, or is that taboo?
No, I could. I mean, easily. If you've got some.
No, I'm just curious. I think if
I'm
you're friends with.
No, I'm not into that.
No, you're not getting a signed jersey for the studio, or
I should. No. We should do that. I mean, but it's just that was never my thing.
Or you remember that Lance Parrish poster where he's with the baby tiger?
Yeah,
you know that one.
Yeah.
You get that side or something. That'd be sweet for a man cave.
I gotta think about that,
Yeah, why not? If you're hanging out with them, right?
Yeah.
Every day.
It's just we talk about what they're doing in the winter. Families, how's their family? How's the kids? And it's really cool because it's pretty much just regular, like we're talking. I thought really the first time teeing off with Darren, he hit first, and I told this a few weeks ago on here. It was pretty funny. So he drills one about 285, 290 right down the middle. And it isn't 10 feet off the ground. It's a laser. So his manager, Boogie, gets up. He probably won't like it. But he hits one right in the woods and right to the left of us. So being the third guy up, it took a little pressure off. Got it down the middle. But it's just kind of fun to get to know him, Brandon.
Yeah, no, I bet. I'm jealous.
Well, they're going to do this thing, and it's going to be awesome. I think the part about loving Darren McCarty so much is he's that rare blend, a tremendous athlete and great showman. He's funny. He does these Sam Bernstein. He's everywhere, I called Sean Belizian last Friday to grab lunch, and he texted me back. He says, I'm interviewing Darren McCarty. It's like, this dude, he's everywhere.
Oh, yeah, he loves Detroit. He loves being a part of it, where, maybe some other athletes who've played here, don't want anything to do with Detroit or don't come here or don't visit or not a part of anything. I do love how most of the athletes, even like the Pistons, like Ben Wallace, all these guys are always in Detroit. They're always still connected here. Calvin Johnson, You know, these guys are still coming back. There's a reason, you know. I mean, Detroit's a special place, and especially Metro Detroit to live and to raise your family. So, speaking of some of these guys, though, what's your like favorite sports team of all time throughout college or like professional?
Ever?
Yeah, I guess throughout like your lifetime.
Well, I can tell you a lot of stories, you know. I mean, the 68 Tigers, that was the first real, we were like 10 years old. So I was playing football and Redford Rangers, you know, and we would go and we'd have radios and we'd be listening to the games or, like I said, up in the library with the nuns at St. Agatha. So 68, 84 was fun. We had tickets to a Kansas City game. That was American League playoffs. And then we had tickets for one of the World Series games. Not the championship in either. Yeah, no, I don't think the championship in either one of them as far as winning the league or the, World Series. But we were there, and that was pretty special. Michigan football. We were at Penn State this year when with my brother Danny and my wife. We drove out to Happy Valley. I really wanted to just eat their ice cream. Ben and Jerry came from there, right?
Oh,
Penn
I didn't
State.
know that. No.
Yep, their creamery ice cream place is top notch. So that was fun. Harbaugh got let go, and it was like the team pulled together. The team. There was this second suspension, and it was like, what is going on? And that team at that point, I think they were invincible. They not only got pissed once, they pissed them off the second time, and they didn't look back. Remember, Michigan football, I mean, they beat Alabama, they beat Washington, they beat Ohio State. But another favorite game for me, Brandon, would have been my son. We always watched the game Ohio State, Michigan together.
Okay.
And we were watching it with beers or cocktails in the garage, and we would have the big screen and a heater in there and chairs. And 2 years ago, he came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, what about the Ohio State game, Michigan?" I go, "In the garage." He goes, "Not this year, Dad. I got 2 tickets in Columbus." That was fun. I mean, Michigan beat them for the first time in 18 years down there.
Wow, yeah.
That was cool.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I'm not a big, don't hate me, I'm not a big college football fan, so I don't really know anything about like Michigan or Michigan State, unfortunately. But I mean, yeah, anytime you can go to a game with your son or your dad. I mean, me and my dad just went to a Tigers game, and I just loved it. You just, reminisce or talk about stories. Like I said, he was just rambling on about the 68 Tigers, and I just let him talk because I just want to hear it all and absorb it all. I just love the anecdotes and stories. Yeah, I'd say my favorite probably the 2002 Red Wings has a special place for me because I played house hockey in Novi growing up. And Nick Lindstrom's son also played house hockey.
And they're neighbors of your dad, right?
They were, yeah. They lived in the same subdivision, modest subdivision. Nick Lindstrom, one of the best defensemen of all time, one of the best players of all time. Just a totally cool guy. Didn't push his kids to play travel hockey. Just played normal house hockey. Ended up on the same team with him. We lived close. So got to be pretty good friends with him for a couple of years. And the one big year was the 2002 Cup. And I just remember going to the games with him and his mom and his brothers and going through like the player entrance and then entering the player entrance. And then just going to there was like a wife and girlfriend family room. Just going in there and getting it was all free food and free drink that they were selling upstairs, and going to the locker room after every game. And I remember when I still call him Mr. Lindstrom, but when Nick Lindstrom would come, he would come home with cards and just sign them for us and bring signed cards of other players. Just such a cool, down to earth guy. And actually ran into him at a book signing a few years ago with my mom. Still remembers us, still everything. So just a good guy, good memory, cares. So that team super connected and, got a party with the cup. I remember them having the cup at the house and them doing a party for the hockey team. So just super cool, super connected, always been a hockey guy. And then my dad had season tickets to the Wings.
You were right on the ice.
Right on the ice behind the visitors bench for 20 plus years. So there's going to be nothing like Joe Louis. I'm not a big fan of LCA. I don't like to go to games there for either the Pistons or the Red Wings. There's going to be nothing like the Joe ever again. And I'm okay with that. At least I got to experience that and have my memories.
If it was up to me, they wouldn't have torn Tiger Stadium down. The Tiger Stadium was, even though you had to sit behind poles and things, the way I equate it, our first game to go to Comerica was we showed up and my mom and dad were with us. I don't know how we got stuck with these seats, but it was so far up behind home plate, you couldn't even see the players. And I right away had a bad feeling. I walked in and everybody looked like they had just got out of Walmart and they were all had the golf shirts on and the plaid shorts. And they just, you could go to Tiger Stadium and you see the guy with the cigar in his mouth, the beer, his hot dog over here too, and he'd have a white T-shirt, huge guy, and he'd have mustard dripping down his T-shirt. It was different.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and they made the tickets so high in price that a lot of the people who couldn't afford it couldn't come, which sucks.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has those memories with Tiger Stadium. It seems like everyone seemed to love it and just be close to it. My dad even told me, he's like, yeah, I just remember those big posts that were just there. And if you got a seat there, just obstructed your view. And the bleacher creatures and all of that. See, I was born in 93. So I remember going to Tiger Stadium. I remember my brother like having an event or going on the field or something like that before a game. But my stadium is Comerica Park. I love Comerica Park.
Oh, I'm not knocking it.
Now, like I could see you not liking it when it first came out. It's different. It's a change.
I always liked it.
Yeah, now I love it. I love going to Comerica Park.
Yeah.
I love the vibe. I love how the Tigers have that walk up between the pitching mound and the catcher, that little strip.
Only
They're
one
the
in the
only one
league.
in the league that does that. And it's like old school baseball, and opening day is always great. I mean, I've probably taken my 3-year-old daughter to 5 games already this season, and it's just so easy and fun. There's nothing like it.
Well, we've got season tickets.
Okay.
So yeah, we go. I love it. I'm just saying, you have 2 parks left, Fenway and Wrigley Field, and you had Tiger Stadium and you blew it. You should have left it. You should have fixed it up. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
So there's a guy named Tony Zale. You watch Netflix much? You have it?
I'm more of a movie guy than a TV show guy.
Well, you like sports.
I like sports.
You considering boxing a sport?
I'm not even going to pretend like I follow boxing or MMA.
Okay.
I'm not.
Yeah, Tony Zale is a guy. If you ever wanted to see before, they call him the Man of Steel. I had his book here. His nephew wrote it, Thad Zale, up in Grand Ledge. He was a neighbor of my sister's, and we had talked about having him on the show. But the guy beat Rocky Marciano 2 out of 3 fights. These fights are, they're like World War II fights, what you'd expect. The guy's chiseled, and it's like, they called him the Man of Steel. You want to watch something, that's pretty entertaining.
Okay.
Check out Tony Zale, Netflix.
All right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to watch, Brandon.
For the, I guess, future projects for the Detroit Vipers, I could talk about that. So there's a pretty big mural street artist named Sheafy McFly out of Detroit. He does murals all over the city. We have a Viper t-shirt and jersey collab that's coming out this fall. That was a pretty big deal that we got that. We also have Holiday Market coming up at Eastern Market. That runs through November and December. That's always a great time to get stuff ready for the holidays. We have a website, DetroitVipers.com, going to be launched this fall with all new product. That's going to be fun to push on Instagram and everything like that. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at the list.
Who was the guy you were with the Vipers? Maybe he had the trademark, and you told me you were trying to get it, and you were trying to get it. You thought it was the coolest label, and it's pretty cool. So the question is, how'd you get it, and why did he finally give it to you or sell it to you?
So yeah, I knew the guy who owned the trademark before me. He was a pretty good friend of mine. He had a store in Farmington in 2010 that I stumbled across because one of my buddies was taking a driver's ed course right next to it. So it just happened to be, it was pre-social media and all that stuff. So it just happened to be coincidence. He had a small little store in Farmington, and then he expanded to Royal Oak, and he had those vintage champion jerseys, vintage starter hats, starter jackets. Did a lot of bad boy stuff, and then he had a lot of vintage Vipers gear. And then throughout that time, he ended up acquiring the trademark because either the Davidsons or Palace Entertainment or whoever owned it kind of just forgot about it once the early 2000s hit. He acquired it. He tried to do some stuff with it, release some gear. It just didn't really take off, wasn't the time yet. I always say if he would have waited just 10 years, he would be one of the richest vintage people because he was just so ahead of his time with all the vintage gear and owning the Vipers. Ended up not really working out. Still kept in touch with him, kind of bought some of his inventory throughout the years as he was letting it go. And then finally, the last thing he had, his last prized possession was the Vipers trademark. And since we've been close, and I always supported him, helped him out a little bit with some work, and we'd always would joke around and talk about how I would love to acquire it or buy it from you. Finally, he was ready to do that. Gave me a call. We talked on the phone, agreed, and that's history. He wanted it to go to a person who cares. Like I said, I've been collecting this stuff since 2010. I probably have a collection to 300 to 400 just Detroit Bad Boys tees alone in my archive storage unit. And that doesn't even, starting the Lions or Vipers or the other Detroit sports teams or affiliates or teams that no longer exist, like the Detroit Express, that soccer team, or the Detroit Rockers or Detroit Neon, all of that stuff. I've always loved them. I always caught that kind of stuff. But yeah, he ended up selling it to me. He was ready to let it go. Went to the right person. He knew I would do good with it, and not just extort it or go crazy with it or sell it out. Do it the right way. Show care, love. Like I said, hire artists who were doing art back in the 80s and 90s to do new designs. Do it the right way. Do quality over quantity. And so here we are, and we're starting that, and we're very excited. Website's launching, DetroitVipers.com. You can catch us at Eastern Market every Sunday. And we're very active on Instagram. We almost have 13,000 followers. So whenever we post there or we're active on there, we have a pretty good following. People who follow us know what they're getting and know what they want and what their eye catches. So, yeah.
That's great. I saw a TV show you and Jessica were being interviewed on, and a gentleman was asking you, I believe, about the Pistons and the Bad Boys. And how old were you when the Pistons?
I was not even alive.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I've always been into older stuff than me. And my brother's 6 years older than me. So a lot of kids my age, not kids, I guess we're 30 years old now. A lot of people my age are really into like Pokemon and Nintendo, where I'm like G.I. Joe, He-Man, Sega Genesis. I like older stuff, and that's because it was always just around when I was a kid, or I got my brother's old toys or old stuff. So I've always been into older things. And I remember the first time seeing the skull and crossbones with the basketball design, when I was in high school or something, and just falling in love with it and being like, this is so cool. And then you watch all like the interviews, the Detroit Raiders, where they're the bad boys of the NBA, all that stuff. Watching the Lambeer and Mahorn highlights, how they used to just beat people and bully people. And
they were tough.
How good Isaiah and Joe were in the backcourt, and how Isaiah had 25 points in one quarter on a bum ankle. Like, no one's even done that to this day. They were one of the best teams of all time, if not the best team of all time. They created Michael Jordan. I fully believe that as a Detroit guy. Without them, who knows if Michael Jordan would have put on the weight? Who knows if he would have won those championships? It wasn't for the Detroit Pistons. And I feel like we're always sandwiched in between Magic, Bird, and Jordan. And then don't even get me started about the 92 Olympics with Chuck Daly as the coach. And somehow Isaiah Thomas is not on that team when he was one of the best players in the world. I'm always a Detroit guy. I'll be a Detroit guy till I die. But anyways, yeah, the bad boy stuff, it always just, the design, the culture, the attitude, I've always just been so, like, I don't know. It's always been so close to my heart. It always just hit me a certain way. And then when the '04 Pistons kind of replicated that about the team, the hard work, the Bad Boys 2.0, the going to work Pistons. I don't know.
Mark Aguirre, right? They picked
Yeah.
him up for Dantley.
Yeah, for Dantley, getting rid of him. Yeah. Or Buddha, James Edwards, the Microwave, Spider, the Worm, all these guys. I mean, to have the team that they did was just so. I can just go on YouTube and watch highlights of, Bad Boys clips all day.
Well, when they got a little older and longer in the tooth, I guess, as far as that team went, I remember Rick Mahorn he was getting hammered and fouled, and they were all coming after the Pistons really hard, and he knew that referee. He called the guy out. He said, "You have to be gambling. Who's paying you? And what turns out, he was gambling and betting against the Pistons and calling foul after foul after foul. And the guy, I don't know if he went to jail, but he's not an NBA ref anymore, and he shouldn't be. But no, they were fun to watch. The excitement that goes with whether you're a Detroit Tiger World Series guy or the Red Wings, and we've been blessed, thank God. We still get to see and talk and meet these guys, and it's really a lot of fun how they become champions. And I don't want to always go back to Darren McCarty, but the one thing he said when he was sitting right where you're at, he looks at me, he goes, "Ron," he goes, "after that Claude Lemieux fight," he said, "we still were learning." He said, "We won 4 Stanley Cups," and he said, "You don't win a Stanley Cup until the guy sitting next to you is more important than yourself." Once we realized the guy next to me was more important than myself, we all did, we won a Stanley Cup. That was cool. That even now, it kind of makes the hair on my back of my head stand up because you get it.
Yeah, I mean, the grind line was super important. You needed that line. And then before that, the Bruise Brothers, all of those guys, Probert.
Yeah. And the Russian Five.
All those. You needed that to finally get to 97, especially losing to the Devils in the finals.
Did your family, did you guys know Konstantinov and any of that? I mean, that accident was...
No. Anders Eriksson, he was a Swede. He lived right next door to my parents growing up. He was a Swede, pretty good in juniors, kind of bounced around the NHL, won the cup with them in 97, and then was part of the Chelios trade in 98. So he ended up going to Chicago. But him and Lindstrom and Holmstrom, I remember it clear as day in the driveway, just having a radio on, drinking beers, in the summer. Like, they were just normal guys.
Yeah.
So no, we knew more of the Swedes just because of where we were, But a lot of the Red Wing players now live in the Novi Northville area. I know like Osgood has a place there. I wouldn't be surprised if McCarty lives out there too. But
I think he's downtown.
A lot of them have homes in Metro Detroit.
Mm-hmm. He came up over the bridge there. Him and Probert were like 15 minutes apart, and they came across. But he's got a place in Detroit, and he goes, so his girlfriend was from Clare, and he spends time golfing with John Daly in the winter.
I could see them being friends. That would make sense. Same type of person.
He'd get a lot of attention. But what else was it? I think that's about all I have, really.
I'm going to have to maybe get your connection with Darren McCarty because I would love to do like a Vipers night at LCA. And I bring this up because last season on like the Detroit Pistons Instagram, they posted a picture of Hooper, their mascot, wearing a Detroit Vipers jersey. And it must have been like the jerseys that they had for like promo or that the mascots wore back at the Palace, and they just still had or something. But he wore it and they like posted it. And I'm going, oh, well, that's interesting. I feel like, a Detroit Vipers night could definitely happen at LCA. either with being Palace because Palace Entertainment owned them, or the Red Wings doing like a throwback night.
Are you doing anything September 13th, Friday at Clark Lake Golf Course in the Irish Hills? We're gonna be with him and Louie Lee and Peter Dante.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun.
No, if I could
Tori's coming.
No, my daughter's birthday is September 11th, and we may be doing the birthday party on the 13th or 14th.
Make it the 14th.
Yeah.
Really, I'm serious. He's going to be here. I think Peter Dante will be here either the Thursday or Friday sitting there, and I'm hearing probably a good chance he'll be here for that too.
I wonder if Peter Dante is going to be in Happy Gilmore too, because they just announced that. They're filming that.
I'm not sure him and you.
Are they not close anymore, him and Sandler?
Look it up.
Oh, I didn't know something happened. Uh-oh.
Look that story up.
Okay, I will now. I didn't know that, I guess.
I'm not saying,
Edit that out, all right?
saying anything on that one because he's coming. And I did want to say one thing, and I think everything for me and for really it's been clear. It's just been great. You know, by the grace of God, all these good things happen. And May 28th of 2023, I'd stopped drinking and go to meetings Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and 7 a.m. And, you know, one of the reasons I like to say that at one point somewhere in here, Brandon, is because if that helps one person, because I was drinking too much. So that's just a personal thing.
Yeah, of course.
And why not, right? If someone looks and says, oh, God. Because I always say that these would not be happening a few years ago. That just wasn't, when you're not clear and you're not on top of your game and having fun like we are, I gotta say, by the grace of God, that's
awesome. If it can help one person, you sharing your story, that's all that really matters, right?
Why not, eh? Yeah. But it's been great having you on the show. We've got one other thing. Okay. Pickle time.
Okay.
Eastern Market. These are the Jess pickles, garlic dill.
I don't like sweet pickles.
I don't either.
I don't like that. That's not for me. Everyone else can have them. Okay.
I can't stand sweet pickles.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's garlicky.
There's some vinegar early on. After a month or two, they're relatively
I would
new.
eat them. I'd put them on like a burger or something.
You're a good guy, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you.